You're on mute, mate. That's a terrible start.
I'm practicing. Are we live? Why don't you tell me these things? And we've got our special guest in the house. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to It's a Football Thing. It's a Football Thing. Scott, you're on your first yellow card already. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special guest in the house. Former A-League and North Macedonian international superstar, Daniel Georgievski. Welcome aboard, my man. How you going?
Thanks for having me, guys, but that's a horrible start. I'm probably going to log off soon.
Jeez, this is not going well for anybody, mate. Liverpool fan, bagging me out. First, next you're going to stir me up for the whole I haven't got as good a hair of you trick on me.
Well, when I did log on, you looked at my hair and I just looked at that shiny thing and I was like, really? You're going to talk? Like, really?
I know. I was excited. It's like a crystal ball. If you look deep enough, you can see the future, and that's hopefully Chelsea winning the quintuple this season. But we'll get to all of that. Robbie, how you going, man?
Yeah, good. I think we can just add, for another rivalry, Italy and North Macedonia, we've got to play off for the World Cup final now. So we're butting heads there as well now.
It's all happening.
I'm just trying to find something with Scott to argue about.
He's an Arsenal fan. We can always find something to argue about, right, Scott?
No, look, Malta mean no harm to anyone. We're terrible, though. Look, I'm all about peace and love, but I have to say, Daniel's my favourite guest of all time. He's been on the stream 1 minute and 44 seconds, and he's already ripped on you, RJ, plenty of times. So, Daniel, you're welcome back anytime, man. Anytime.
Well, it's like that movie of Denzel Washington when he's the prisoner, when he gets arrested wrongfully, and they go into the prison cell, and he's like, just come at me, just like that. So you just bring it on, boys, because I'm happy for it. But, look, let's get stuck into it. We're going to talk about the week that was in the Premier League. We're going to go through some of Dan's thoughts as a red man, and also to unpack the upcoming midweek matches and some of Dan's highlights as a professional football star in the Australian football landscape. But before we get into any of that, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends, because we're trying to build this from the ground up. Guys, a few big results in the week. Liverpool 4 Nil against Southampton. What did you guys make of that one? I'll go for you first, Dan.
Well, it's not really a surprise now, is it?
Big result, but it was emphatic. It was an emphatic win.
I was a bit weary, to be honest, because Southampton is a bit of a bogey team. You don't know who you're going to get. So I was a bit weary, but then I guess once Liverpool got into their stride, it took about 1.5 minutes, it was all over. Liverpool just – I think Liverpool just prefer being that underdog, because then they just glide through it all. But I guess once the pressure hits of like they're the favourites, that's where Liverpool in the past I've had issues with, but I think under Jurgen Klopp, it's not going to be an issue. It's just hard to go and catch Chelsea and Man City because it's a three title race.
Well said, Robbie. Scott, any sort of insights you've got from that game, or pretty much business as usual, like we said in our predictions?
No, I think Daniel's spot on. It's business as usual for Liverpool, who are going from strength to strength. We saw what they did to us a fortnight ago. It was utter humiliation. So I think for Liverpool, who to me are very firmly in this title race, it's going to come down to how they navigate AFCON, quite frankly, because you're removing some key components of their attacking structure and strategy, and it's going to count on some of the other guys there to really step up and fill that void. And how do you fill the void of some of the players they'll be missing? But at the moment, Liverpool are absolutely buzzing and looked brilliant again.
Yeah, well said. Robbie, anything to add to that? Or we'll go on to the next big result over the weekend.
Man, I foreseen. I had the score. I picked 4-0, so I had the score. I already knew what was coming. But just quickly, I just want to shout out Diego Jota, mate. He's such an underrated player, this guy. He's just banging them in every week. He's one of those players that, Bobby Firmino is out, but he comes in. And, mate, for me, I think it's hard for Firmino to even get back in the team once he is fit again, because he's just in great form.
Yeah, no, well said. And that's probably part of the depth component. We'll get Dan's thoughts later on when we do a bit of a mini deep dive into the Reds and how they're going to navigate through that little period. But a next result that, not surprising, but it could have been a bit of a banana skin for them after the thrashing you described, Scott, was Arsenal's rebound against Newcastle. Now, obviously, Newcastle are the cellar dwellers of the Premier League, and they're in big trouble. I think it's fair to say at the moment, them surviving is not looking any better by the day. But just describe your thoughts over that overall performance of the Gunners, and did the result flatter them in the end, or was it just very much a convicted result?
No, look, I wouldn't say flattered, because at no point during the match did I feel that Newcastle were in the ascendancy or were a real risk of taking 3 points. The only kind of doubts I had was that they might pinch a point, because we didn't take our shooting boots in that first half. Aubameyang missed. It literally looked like it was harder to miss than score from where he was, and he's not found his mojo at the moment. And once he does, if he does again, we'll look even more dangerous. But I was happy with how we played. We controlled the game. We were boring in the first half, but whatever was said at halftime, or whatever tactical changes were made, seemed to work, because we came out and I wasn't in doubt that we would take all the points. I don't care if we win ugly. I don't care if we don't pump teams every game. We're not that squad. We're not that team at this point who are able to do what Liverpool do. But 3 points in the bag, keeping pressure on that top four, can't ask for much more than that as an Arsenal fan at this point.
Yeah, fair call. I'm not sure if you gents caught the match, but one bit that I thought it could have changed the trajectory of the result slightly was that when Newcastle had their penalty appeal turned down, it was 1-0 at the time, and then a few minutes later, Martinelli with a superb solo finish in the end. Mm-hmm. My opinion on it was I thought it was the right call. I don't think it was a penalty. It's an aggressive shoulder-to-shoulder, but Dan, you're a defender in your time, mate. What do you think? Fair call, or was it a bit more to it than meets the eye?
I've had too many arguments with referees and VAR, so I'll just won't say anything. Look, everyone has their own interpretation of certain things. Obviously, when I was playing in the spur of the moment, testosterone, your emotions come out. Being wogs, we express ourselves a bit more lively than others. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, when you sit down, Newcastle might feel a bit, stolen, like it's stolen a point away from them or a penalty. But at the end of the day, you can't really turn back time, and I think Newcastle don't really have time to look back and say that could have been a turning point when they've got so many other issues at the moment. So look, I think the pressure from the new owner will definitely be interesting what they do in the transfer window, and who actually wants to go there, because they've not won. And if they don't,
I agree.
After a heavy December game, a lot of games that are happening, if they're not doing well, I don't think, even if you had to give Mbappe 500 million a year, he would never go there. So I think that could be a massive issue for Newcastle, and I think they won't look back at that specific shoulder, because Arsenal were always in control of that. Like, the only person I can kind of say would be Wilson, that could have possibly done something, but that's because he just finds the smallest gap to score some worldie. But that's really, you're not really relying on that. If you're relying on that, that's an issue for the club. So I think Arsenal comfortable. Yes, the referee could have called that. Even if he didn't, I think Arsenal would still found a way to win.
Yeah, fair call. Robbie, anything to add on to that, mate, or pretty much agree with Dan?
Yeah, I agree, especially about the part, like I've been saying since they've been taken over. There's nothing about that club. If I was a player, no matter how much money you're throwing on the table, right now in their situation, there's nothing that appeals to me that you'd want to go and take a big chance there. Not anyone that they need to get out of this fight anyway. Yes, you're going to get your players that aren't playing, or you're really mid to low class players. Fair enough, but for people that are saying that they need to get out of jail and get some mid to top echelon players, I do not see money being the one that's going to get them over there.
See, I don't know, and I'm sure Dan will call me out on it if he thinks I'm in the wrong with this, but certain players are motivated, in my opinion, by different things. Yeah, some want as many trophies as possible, some want the individual accolades, but there are some players out there who potentially, and I have no issue with this, could be primarily motivated by money. We've seen a lot of players, particularly some South American players, go over and play in China years back. Remember that was the phase that players.
Well, Oscar left Chelsea, for example.
Oscar,
etc. Yeah. I do think if they get desperate and they chuck enough money at some players, they might be able to bring some guys in that will improve the squad. At the end of the day, you're still in the Premier League, albeit maybe for 6 months. But for some players, money might be a motivation. I don't know, Daniel. You would have the best insight on this. Do you think I'm out of order, or I might have a point?
No, look, I always even tell young players, I go, stick to a dream and find a dream and stick to it. If it's money, go for money. You're going to Asia, you're going for money. You're not going to improve your football. You're not going to win accolades. Because even if you win there, it's not as big being from Australia to, you can come back, I won the Indonesian league. Okay, cool, man. Like, who cares? So I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I think money will be the only reason why players will go to Newcastle. And I was going to say, they might as well just go to China, because I think China have changed their way, the amount of money they can spend on each player. So I think if they were to go and get Oscar, or what was that one, Lavezzi? I think it's Lavezzi, his name is, the one that was in...
Yep. He was a PSG.
Yeah, so if you throw $500,000 a week at him, which is what he's on in China, because I think China's changed their ways, you'll get a classy player like that, which is only money hungry. And there's nothing wrong with that. Oscar said it perfectly. He goes, mate, I've got to feed my family, my family, and the other 50 other cousins that he found out. So that would be a reason to bring him there, which you could possibly find some good players that could kind of get you out of this rut. But other than that, players are at a level where they're playing Champions League, they're playing Europa League, they're playing for the national team. They wouldn't want to go there. That potentially could get relegated, because that's just money. Like, you lose a sort of reputation. So yeah, that could be the only kind of way that Newcastle could look about the transfer window for this year. But again, it'll be interesting. Money talks, man. At the end of the day, money does talk. If you're on 50K a week, 100K a week, and then you get bumped up to 400K a week, you kind of will forget about the accolades. If you the only problem is finish your career and you haven't made any accolades, you'd be like, oh, I should have. You turn into that type of person that you just talk about money, which you don't end up having many friends at the end of your career, unfortunately. But that's the decisions you make, and that's pretty much what Newcastle will be looking for.
Yeah, you wonder if they're able to somehow convince someone of notable quality just to either entice them with a load of money or sell them a dream that they're going to be part of this revolution. Then I do wonder if they were able to start having, once you get one good player, could that act as a motivator to bring other people? And does that have a bit of a domino effect? Because I look at, squads with deep personalities or ones that are fringe players, would they look for a bit of an out? Like, for example, I'll use Chelsea as the example here. Could someone like a Ross Barkley, I'm not playing week in, week out, could I be the man at Newcastle? I don't know. Like, it's very lopsided, but you just wonder, why not? If I get paid 3 times what I'm getting paid now, and plus I'm going to get 90 minutes each week. But like you said, Scott and Dan, you backed it up. It just depends on your primary motivations. But it's definitely going to be a talking point. The more and more they lose each week, the more and more zeros they're going to have to add onto someone's paycheck. So it's a tricky situation.
I don't think they need to chase attackers, because they actually have really good attackers. I think their midfield and defense, Shelby for me is a liability. Mars. Yeah, he has a great passing game, but he doesn't really bring much other than played in Liverpool a decade ago. That's pretty much it. And if he's the heart of your defense, you're not really doing. I would say if you were to go get an attacker, you go get Arnautovic, because he went to China, now he's back. So he's one that could be very interesting.
An experience.
That might give you 10 goals. But you got Wilson, you can score all the time, and you got that. What's his name?
Maximin, yeah.
He's an absolute gun, but if he doesn't get freedom to play, he's not really a structured type of player. But Newcastle doesn't play like that, so they need to really change the whole back line and possibly get players on loan to go there. That'll be their main objective, I guess.
Agreed.
Yeah. Good points. It's definitely going to be a lingering conversation. Like we said, the more tense their situation gets, the more people are going to scratch their heads thinking, how is the richest club going to claw themselves out of this death trap? But just looking at some of the other results across the weekend, so you had Norwich secure an important point for them, a 0-0 draw at home against Wolves. You had Aston Villa securing the impressive 2-1 away win against Crystal Palace, who themselves have been playing pretty reasonable of late. Brighton and Leeds also locked themselves in a 0-0 draw. Brentford got back to winning ways with a 1-0 win over Everton. And I said a couple of weeks ago to Scott and Rob here that we're talking at the time, Dan, about which managers might be in the firing line. And I threw out there Benitez might be scratching his head a little bit, because I'm not saying they're going to be a top 6 contender, but I thought they should be doing a little bit better with the squad they've got. I know they've got a few injuries, so that's granted. But at the same time, they're in the 14th position at the moment. They're in a real poor rut. The situation continues to look more perilous for them. What do you make of Everton at the moment? Is this just a bit of a bad patch for them, or is this something to watch your eye on?
Well, bad patch will be 2, 3, 4 games, not 7, 8 that they're on the roll. And the fact that they haven't really, I think at the start of the season, by just bringing in Gray and Townsend, well, it was great for him. Townsend was on, is an underrated player in my eyes, but he brings a certain amount. But you can't rely on only spending $1 million on 2 players and expect your season to be great. You got rid of James Rodriguez, who, we know he wasn't the best, but he just knew how to turn tables. He just his presence and his touch changed it. They don't have anyone. You lose Calvin Lewis. Okay, that's a nice combination, him and Townsend, but you brought in Rondo. And who knows if Calvin Lewis would have had the same. He only scored penalties at the start of the season. So who knows if he would have had the same impact as what he had last season. But look, Everton are one of those teams that scraped through. But I think by bringing Rafa Benitez and whatever whatever accolades he had before him, they have a higher expectation, and I think they have the money to spend. And he decided not to, so that could actually turn against him from what it looks like. So if they lose in a couple more games, he could be one on the chopping block, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. Rob, any thoughts on the Everton situation, or?
Yeah, bad, and I think it's going to get worse this week. They've got the Merseyside derby, so if that's a big one, it could be over by the end of the weekend. So we'll have to find out. We'll have to wait and see.
Wouldn't that be a storyline? Everton get touched up by Liverpool, where he's an ex-legend.
Oh, can you imagine that?
That would be some headline.
Add to the story, that's for sure.
Scotty,
and for me, to be honest, I'm not too worried about it. I do think that Everton will stabilise, but they're not going to make waves at the top of the table. I think they'll just sit with a mid-table finish. I think Liverpool will do the business and humiliate them on the weekend. I can feel it. The second Liverpool sends blood in the water, mate, it's over already before they've kicked a ball.
So, quick question for you quickly. I'd just say he did get sacked and Frank Lampard was offered that job. Is that something you reckon he would go for? No, I'm being serious. Because that's, he obviously
trying to stir up me about my favourite player.
No. Well, he was linked to the I think it was the Norwich job or was it the other one, and then obviously look, they're a bit more of a relegation, but obviously I don't think Everton will go down. They're a club that's got money. Would he be interested in something like that as a bit of a stepping stone?
It's a very good question, because he was linked to both Norwich and Aston Villa. Obviously, didn't go to either. I was listening to Martin Tyler the other day, and the thing he was saying about the whole Lampard situation is, I'm sure he's gotten many offers, ones we don't hear about as well, but ultimately he's got to pick the project that's right for him. He's young. He's got runs on the board from his Derby and Chelsea days. There's no need to just rush back into things, even though some people might be of the view that if you miss the boat, you could be waiting a while for the next one. But ultimately, if you make a rash decision and the project's not quite right, it's not really good for coming back into management and 6 months down the track, you've tanked another ship here. So I don't know. I'm not sure if Everton does represent the right project for him, but ultimately only he could answer that, I suppose.
Mate, where do you think he's going to get a job at Man United or Man City? Remember that the guy was with.
No, I didn't say top 6, but I'm saying a different type of profile of team.
He got sacked by Chelsea. He's hardly someone who I think you say he's got money in the bank. I don't necessarily know how much credit he's built up. I mean, he didn't really do anything with Chelsea. I know you're going to say transfer ban, but even with a transfer ban, he's had a better squad than most clubs in the league. So,
as you know, you could have the best squads, and sometimes that still doesn't mean you finish top 4. So
I wouldn't be too picky. If I'm Frank Lampard and I get offered the Everton job, I take it with both hands, and I make sure I go to church on Sunday and I pray to the Lord and give thanks. Because I don't see a top club coming for him. To me, he's a championship level manager at this point.
So they're the right project. So it might not be a top club, but it might be a team that better suits in terms of the players he think he can work with and the philosophy that they're playing. So it might even be a team that's actually lower, but has a better prospect. I think Everton, the situation there, I'm just not thinking that that's that flashy on face value, but he might look at it and say, oh, I can work with this group and actually turn around their fortunes. But it's definitely interesting. We're talking like Benitez has gone already, but we'll have to see. Dan, any thoughts on that whole Lampard possibly going?
I agree with you guys. I think Lampard is a really good coach because if you look at the Chelsea team that he brought in together, a more experienced coach with better tactical, which he would have learned from, with the same players, won the Champions League. Wasn't like they changed much. He just had the right recruitment. He brought in young players. Yeah, he paid an arm and a leg. Probably Kai Havertz was the only one that's a bit of a flop. But other than that, he's actually created a really, really good team. And you've got a lot of the youth academy players coming through. They sold Abraham for 40 mil, so that's not a small thing. You got James, you got all these players that are through. So I think Lampard did a great job, but I think for a club like Chelsea, where the pressure's massive, where you have to, if you lose 2-3 games, you're done. So he was, unfortunately, that was a great learning curve for him. But if he was to take the Aston Villa job, it might not be his type of coaching, where he likes to bring in the younger players, which he did in Chelsea. Aston Villa still have a great team, but I just believe that they weren't playing the right players. The players that got him out of a lot of sticky situations last year were on the bench or in the grandstand. So I think Aston Villa shot themselves in the foot by not playing the players they should have. So I think Lampard, I don't know, he's still young. I would say it's like now giving Wayne Rooney a job in the Premier League because of his credits, because of his Wayne Rooney. It doesn't really mean that he's going to be that type of coach. You know what I mean? So Lampard, I don't know if he would have taken it. I don't think he should have, to be honest. I think he's more of a guy that wants to have, like in Chelsea, have not endless money, but know who to bring in, because all those players that he brought in, Champions League winners, just needed the right guidance to get there. He just didn't have that yet, which would have been a massive learning curve for him. So I don't think he would have taken the Aston Villa job, to be honest, even if he was on the table.
Yeah, no, fair points. And it will be interesting to watch the next manager who falls, victim to the ever-swinging Premier League axe. But the other results on the weekend were Leicester bounced back with a big win over Watford in the end, 4-2, which was a very entertaining game, I have to say, very end-to-end. And in the snow and Vardy, some cute finishes there, particularly the second one. But the West Ham City game, I think we predicted a pretty close result for City in the end. But City, that was a pretty big result because we know West Ham have the ability to pull the surprises against some of the bigger, more fancier teams. But did you guys happen to catch it? And do you think now results like that against West Ham in difficult conditions gives them a little bit of propelled momentum heading into the festive season? I'll go to you first, Scott.
Oh, look, man, I'm going to sit this one out, to be honest. I didn't get to catch this game, unfortunately. And I'm just sitting here waiting for the Chelsea-Man United talk. So I'll sit this one out kindly. I'll pass on to Dan in case he saw this.
No, I'm not interested in this anymore. I want to hear about the Chelsea Man UK. I'm more interested in that.
Did they play? Did they? I didn't see that. Just kidding. But Robbie, what did you make? City?
No, I've seen the highlights, bro. I seen it was a very snowy game by the look of it. I'm surprised that one didn't get caught off. Obviously, the Burnley Spurs got caught off, and that one looked just as bad. But yeah, look, I seen the goals, and to be honest, it was a bit annoying at the end how West Ham scored in like the last minute fantasy-wise.
What a goal! What a goal!
Beautiful goal, but stuffed up all the clean sheets and stuff. But look, that's as far as I've seen, just extended highlights in that one.
All right,
let's
fine.
do this, boys. Come on.
You've been waiting, Scott. You got the popcorn, mate. Bring it up. That's it. Manchester United, worst team in the competition at the moment, come to Stamford Bridge, deploy the lowest of low blocks, catch Jorginho out, Ballon d'Or third-placed finisher. And they almost won it in the end. I will give you credit, Rob. They did a good job after they scored the goal to sort of believe in themselves a little bit. But as I said to you on the phone, it's frustrating. Obviously, we're devastated. We should have won and won convincingly. But the way in which Manchester United approached that game, it just feels so funny seeing how disjointed they are. I understand being pragmatic. I fully get that. We've won premierships based on being pragmatic. So I know full well in the 04-05 season what that's like. But you look at it and I just think you're happy you got the point, but the way you play the game, I don't know. And Scott's doing the whole cry motion, but I just thought, oh, geez, that's such a terrible way to play the game, but surely you're happy with the point, Rob. Tell me about it.
100%, I'm happy with the point, but look, I don't think it was like rocket science that it wasn't going to happen like that. We all caught. I think every United fan knew that you guys were going to dominate possession. We've been in a real rut the last 6 weeks, so we weren't going to come out and go toe to toe with the high flying Chelsea at the bridge. At the same time as well. So look, the thing was, like I said, damage control or try not to concede early on. When we got to half time at 0-0, that's a big that was a big tick for us, considering that I don't remember the last time we kept a clean sheet by half time. We normally concede first. So yes, and then like I said, to capitalize off a Jorginho mistake and take the lead, like you said, 15 minutes after that is when we actually had a little bit of confidence and tried to pass around a little bit and have an attempt at playing a little bit of football. But like I said, in the end, when we got to the 75th minute before we conceded the penalty, which I will say I do agree it was a penalty. Unfortunate, but definitely contact, and I'd be shouting if it was on the other foot. But yeah, when you are winning at the bridge against the high-flying Chelsea, I was disappointed in the end not to take the 3 points. But like I said, I went there thinking that, look, I'll take a result or a draw before the start of the game. We got it. We slowed Chelsea up a little bit, and we didn't lose. It's a positive. Like I said, it was damage control, because losing that as well with the new manager coming in, it's just more points dropping off the top 4 and a bit more of a harder job. So I pointed the bridge against Chelsea coming first. I'll take it any day of the week.
Rob, can I ask you a question? Would you play Harry Maguire?
No.
He is the biggest liability and the biggest flop I've seen for many, many years.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, he's your captain, but please,
it's a big debate among United fans. Should he be captain? Should he not be captain? Look,
captain, I would even put him in my squad.
We'll petition him to have his card overturned. We wanted him to play, Dan.
Go back a month, 3 months ago. He was in the squad of the tournament for the Euro. So there is a player in him. You can't say there's not a player, because you can definitely say he's a player out of form, because he can step up on his day and have a good time. And like I said, if you did watch him in the Euros, to get it, no one just gets into the team of the Euros or team of the you know what I mean.
You play for Manchester United, you'd have to get in there, wouldn't you? And you don't really have.
England, man. Shots fired. Nah.
Well, you don't really have many. You got Mings that's playing in Aston Villa, and that's pretty much it. That's kind of like at the level.
He got in over them over Bonucci or Chiellini.
Playing in the team forcefully, I would say, even forcefully captain, because he's English.
Well, there's a lot of other players there.
Is it a question of the system, though? I mean, when he plays for England, he's not making the mistakes he's making at Man United. And I don't watch enough of Man United. Their games bore me to death. But is there something in the system that Man United play that's exploiting maybe some of his weaknesses or causing him to get exposed? Because he does look a better player when he's got an England shirt on than when he's got a United shirt. I don't know if it could be the system for you.
Yeah,
Can I answer that question? Because Luke Shaw is still thinking that he's in the Euros. Lindelof is, wouldn't say much, and Wan-Bissaka is just the same thing. So you got the worst backline, and you go and smash De Gea, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and keeps saving your asses every week. So the fact that you've got no one good around you makes him look even worse. But when you got better players around you, like with an England squad, it helps. You got Stones next to you.
We have Rafa Varane, who's injured now.
Just goes to show if Van Dijk is a gun and he's the best player in the back line, and they've got the best wing fullbacks there, but without Van Dijk, they're not good. Without Harry Maguire, the rest of the team looks better. So if we're comparing, it's chalk and cheese. So Maguire needs good players around him, like he has in England, and you're playing Malta and bloody crap teams. Yeah, of course.
Hey.
Hey, just call it how it is, mate. That's it.
You got to put a few games together with Rafa Varane, who does have the cool and the calmness. He does need someone like a Varane, or like you said, maybe like a Virgil van Dijk next to him that will take charge. He's got the dud is because he was $80 million. If it wasn't $80 million, no one would be. You could have signed
Ben White. You could have got a good player like Ben White.
We did. We got Rafa Varane for cheaper than Ben White.
And we've seen how that's gone.
For me, Varane is the key there. Varane is the key to Manchester United. That's it. Not Harry Maguire putting him captain. Just put him in the back.
That's it. Oh, look, there's a question mark over the captaincy. I don't choose the captain. That was the manager at the time. Who knows? We've got a new manager. It might be a change of captain. We don't know.
Well, what did you think, though? So obviously the fridge wasn't present, but what did you make of the decision not to start Ronaldo for this game? He hasn't scored a Premier League goal against Chelsea. Much was made of that. And obviously the talk beforehand was Rangnick and what he said before about Ronaldo is not really the kind of player I'd want because of his lack of pressing and his energy is getting older, etc., etc. Do you think there was some sort of influence into that, him being subbed, or was that just Carrick's decision not to start him for some odd reason? What do you boys think of that?
No, well, I'll answer that. Number one, just quickly on a slide dig, he hasn't scored up against Chelsea. You're right, but I think the last
in the Premier League.
Yeah, the last time he scored was a Champions League final, so I remember that one. But look, in a serious note, I think, Carrick showed from the first game he took that he wasn't scared to drop big players. He dropped Rashford and he dropped Bruno straight away in the first Champions League game, and that was a bit of an eye-opener. So when I'll admit, when I seen no Ronaldo in a big game like this, I was like, well, here we go. But after the game, I actually kind of thought, it ended up being not bad. I actually wouldn't have minded if Ronaldo didn't play at all because he wouldn't have seen the ball for the whole first half. We barely had a touch across the halfway line. When he did come on, he didn't do much. He didn't get much ball. I think he had the one time against Thiago Silva. He might have had a bit of a challenge.
That was when he was 14 meters offside, but they missed it.
100%. And that's it. He got booked in the end. The referee got a bit ticket happy in the end. But like I said, at the end, now that I've seen the game, look, it worked in our favor. They had the two pacey players that were going to try and keep you on the break, and we barely seen the ball in the first half anyway. So it would have been a waste of him being there because he wasn't going to press number one, which Rashford and Sancho did press. So yeah, it didn't end up being that bad of a.
It's a shame, really. Sorry, Scott, you go on.
No, I was just going to ask Dan if he thinks it was a good call.
Look, he's 37, Ronaldo 38.
37, yeah.
They're monitoring his game time anyway. So why wouldn't you rest him against the Chelsea in the snow? You rather have him. He's scoring freaking every Champions League game. So why wouldn't you use him in that way? Let alone when you know you're going to get absolutely pummeled by Chelsea. Just knowing possession-wise, front-wise, he would just get frustrated and then it would be pointless because then you got another game in 3 days' time. So I think with him, they monitor his playing time because he is 38. And why wouldn't you want him in your team when he's going to be scoring goals for fun instead of playing against a Chelsea team where you know you're not going to get possession? So for me, it's not really a drop. I think it was just more monitoring his playing time during the season. They got another game in 2 days. Another game.
I would have preferred him to rest him against Arsenal, to be blunt.
They'll probably fancy themselves more.
Mark my words, he'll be straight on the team sheet in that Arsenal game. So
he always does against us, but we'll save that for another day, that conversation.
Yep. Yeah, no, that was, a crazy game, crazy outcome. Thought, obviously, very frustrated. Should have won, didn't. But credit to United for taking a well-earned point in the end. But now, Dan, you're out. Because you know what I mean. Because we've gotten results before, and I know in the back of my mind we didn't deserve it. Yeah, that's what I mean. I didn't say well earned because it wasn't an even game. That's what I mean. Like they plucked it out of thin air, and that's what it is. And credit to them, but it wasn't well earned.
I didn't say. I never said once it was well earned, but I pointed the bridge considering the formation. How both teams are at the moment. I think that's a great result for us.
Rob, he's just bitter, mate. Don't worry about him.
Of course I'm bitter, mate.
Forget about him.
We got more resistance against Burnley. Of course I'm upset.
Don't let him bring you down, Rob.
It's just, look, at the end of the day, if Chelsea want to win the league, they're going to have to beat players.
For sure.
Like the way we've been in the last month, they've got to beat people like us. They've got to beat Burnley. That's 2 games in a row they've had a draw and drop 4 points where they could have been 4 points more in front of them.
I agree, 100%, spot on. And that's why we're not favourites at the moment, in my opinion. That's why we're contenders, not favourites, because we haven't demonstrated that consistency for long enough. But that's how it goes at the end of the day. But, Dan, as I said, you're a special guest. Your team continues to fly high despite the odd hiccup against teams like West Ham, who no shame in losing to them because they are a good team in their own right and are making waves themselves. But just from a Liverpool perspective, what have you made of this season overall thus far, and what do you predict to be the next phase of the season? And like just some thoughts around that, mate.
Look, Jurgen Klopp has a certain style, which is high press, high intensity. The only issue there is when he gets injuries, which is, I guess, it comes with the territory when you play that type of football. And then you're going to have the African Cup coming, so he's going to lose some of his players there, which he's had in the past, but he's managed to monitor and overcome it. You know, bringing players like Jota, like you said, underrated, but he will score you a goal too. You've got other players that can come through. I wouldn't be surprised if they go and try to buy one of those, put 30 million on a player which no one will look at, and he might score you 5-6 goals during the season. Thiago, what's his name? The midfielder Thiago absolutely just scored 2 goals in a week. He hasn't scored 2 goals in 3 years. So, you know, you've got players of that caliber to be able to come through. And you do have a squad. Liverpool didn't really have the biggest squad when it came down to when they won the league years ago, but they just know how to monitor it. Last year they copped it with injuries. This year they've had a few, but they've had good players that have come in. The young Greek left back he took Robertson's position of the season. Even though
I like him at
so I think if they, he wasn't bad. He's quite aggressive, has a little something to him. But Liverpool are just that top of team. You know we're going to get whether it's snowing, hailing, or freaking sunny shine. Jurgen Klopp has that character built implementation in the team where it's a family and they all fight for each other. Even though you look at Mo Salah and Mane when they would argue, that's like 2 kids arguing, but the dad's there. He's like, that's all right, mate. He's like a free-range father. He's like, yeah, no worries, you can argue, but go score me goals. I don't care. And that's how it's going to be. So I don't think there is much pressure on Liverpool with that because they do continue to do, hiccup versus West Ham, fair enough. You're allowed to have a hiccup. But when you're playing against the teams, like you said, Chelsea should have beat Manchester United. I reckon Liverpool smashed Manchester United. You know what I mean? Even if they did park the bus, or even if they're in this situation, they just know how to win games. And they're not grinding it out. They're winning comfortably, which even Man City haven't really perfected yet, where they should be just dominating, where there aren't any scares. And then you got a goalkeeper like Alisson, you got your backline. They're a scary team to play against, so I'll give them that. It's just that their bogey teams are like your Burnley and whatnot, and those teams end up coming up. Their best game of the season is versus Liverpool, which kind of hurts because you're like, bloody hell, and then the next week they lose 6-0 to City, and you're like, why didn't you play bad against them? So that can be frustrating, but it's normal. But I think Liverpool are in a good position. They're only, 2 points off the top or whatever it is. They're in the Champions League. So, look, they're good, but I think once, not just them, a lot of teams will win that African Cup does go. We'll lose the likes of Mane, Keita, which I think they will be able to compensate with other players. Henderson might get more game time. Milner, who's just a workhorse. Yeah, you'll give him 1 out of 3 games, but at least you got him for that 1 game, and he's absolutely killing it. So I think they'll do well.
Can I ask you a question about Klopp? I mean, you played for some great managers. You played against some great managers. As a player, is Klopp the kind of guy that you would love the opportunity to play for? Or, I mean, is there another manager at the moment, if it's not Klopp, is there another manager out there that you think, I would love to play for this guy?
Oh, look, I'm a Mourinho fan. I love his arrogance, but I love the fact if you give him 100%, you get it. Klopp has a style in his managerial. I must talk to you for a second. Everyone's frozen.
Yeah, you can still hear you.
No, it's all good.
We can hear you, just getting a bit of lag.
No, we're back. Good. No, everyone froze. Robbie's head went in another direction. I don't know what's going on. No, I would have definitely loved to play under Jurgen Klopp. Like, I would be one guy that you would absolutely die for because you know that he's dying for you. Type of feel like he's just got the perfect managerial psychology of player manager implemented, where coaches will say, "Oh, I'll back you," but then when push goes to shove, do they really back you, or are they looking at their own ass? And that's where I don't think Jurgen Klopp has that, and hasn't had it since he's come to Liverpool, where he's thrown anyone under the bus. When he did say something, it was the whole team, wasn't a specific. Even if Sane didn't score, Mane didn't score, or Firmino, he probably scored 4 goals the whole season. played him every week because he goes, I want him to do this way. And Firmino goes, no, but I want to score goals because I'm getting bonuses for goals. No, he goes, no, I'm doing what he wants me to do. And once you manage to get the players out of that financial selfishness, where it's like, I want game time, I want bonuses, that's why you see that Liverpool team. And that's why you rarely see someone get sold from Liverpool that wants to leave. Like, what's that other striker that they have that just comes on and scores a goal and you don't see him for a month?
Are you talking about Origi?
Yeah, Origi.
Origi. Mate, he will play anywhere in the Prem standard. But why hasn't he left? Why hasn't he left?
Winning
That's a
culture.
valid point. Love, mate, how much more money do you need? I would rather enjoy myself and love playing for Liverpool than going to get triple my wage, knowing there could be crap there. Or it could be better, who knows? But you know what you get at Liverpool, and you know. I watched this thing about Jurgen Klopp and how when he came to Liverpool and the way he got there, went to New York, did his agreement, etc. And he implemented something which I've heard before. He went to Liverpool and his biggest signing was a nutritionist. That's my star signing, not Salah, not anybody. And what he did was he goes, I've got Salah on 200K a week and I've got the assistant chef and Salah has to know his name. They have to speak. Before that, they were having egg and bacon in the morning, right? It was an English culture. But they didn't know who the staff were. Klopp came in there and he said, you guys have to. If you don't like it, you can leave. Not because of anything else, because you have to know who works for you, who works with you, and we have to create that culture. And the club fell for it. And it was the best thing they've ever fallen for because they've never had that before. And that's a success. So why wouldn't you want you going in? Even everyone that works there, they'll work for free. That's how much people want to be at Liverpool. And that's how the culture should be. And I think Pep Guardiola does the same thing as well. Like Jurgen Klopp doing at Liverpool. I remember I watched it was like a 15, 20-minute YouTube clip, and I was like, mate, that's what you would want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not anything else. He's done it, and he's there, and he's not leaving.
And the good thing about him is he didn't just turn up and magically change things overnight. The club, give him credit, they allowed him to settle in, implement his philosophy, and change things from the top down and the bottom up to now building this cohesive engine and really transform them back into the powerhouse that they've become. So I think it's a whole of club effort. And I think one of the things that probably doesn't get spoken about enough with Klopp is, I feel as an outsider, he's done a really good job in really elevating those that he's working with, because I'm not sure if you get the same group of players and move them to a different team, I'm not sure if some of them would excel in the same way. So I think players like Henderson, I think of players like Fabinho. Firmino is a quality player, but he seems to be such an important player for that team over recent years. And when they together, they work so well, but isolating them individually and putting them in different teams, I don't know if they perform to the level that Klopp's managed to get out of them. So I just think he's done a really, really solid job there. But just in terms of Liverpool overall, because they're flying high, they've been smashing teams left, right and centre with the odd banana skin result as expected. But if you were the manager, or if you had a say in the transfer sort of policies, is there a specific area of the team that you would look to improve because you're not quite sold that they've got enough to do the job across all the competitions they compete in? Or are you just content with the squad as is?
I wouldn't change a thing. He's got Jota, who can play up as a striker, but he isn't a striker. Firmino is a striker that doesn't score goals, but yet they score goals every game. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't change a thing because the style actually is perfect for him. So you wouldn't change anyone, wouldn't bring anyone in. You wouldn't even bring Lukaku or Ronaldo, who will score goals every week. It just wouldn't work for him. So why would he bring someone like that for? He goes to German teams. He goes to the mid-range teams in other leagues to do it. Because he knows they will go into this and I'll be able to implement them into my style. Because he doesn't just look at how good they are on the pitch. He looks at what he's going to say hello every morning to the assistant kitchen man. That's what he looks at, which builds character. Man. He wouldn't bring him other than that.
Yeah, now very good points. But I think now with all that the backdrop, because I think Liverpool are in red hot form, pun intended, but it's scary for us Chelsea fans. I'm sure City fans are watching on nervously, but to their credit, they've been there, won that. For me, I just think watch the January period because it's going to be nervous for a few of the bigger end of town teams, but they're looking hot. They are. Robbie, any final thoughts from your perspective about Liverpool and their high-flying season before we move on to the next point?
No, look, I think you guys wrapped it up. And look, Liverpool's not my favourite topic to talk about, obviously. But look, I have to say, I actually think that was just another quick point you said about Divock Origi, for instance, about the whole, he plays once a month, does his job, but he's happy to sit on the bench instead of, for the whole Newcastle thing we were talking about before. If they threw money at him right now, all the money in the world, what would he rather do? Go to Newcastle and play in possibly being a relegation dogfight, or play once a month for a high-flying Liverpool with a culture like that and sit on the bench and play every now and then? I know which one I would be doing, playing for Liverpool under Klopp. So that's the kind of thing I was talking about before with the whole Newcastle situation. But yeah, I think you wrapped that up quite well.
Yeah, well said, well said. Now, just pivoting away from Liverpool for a moment, because, look, I know, Dan, you're smiling. You're happy to talk about Klopp and how he's dominating the rest of the league. And we've got a few quick fires at the end, which will probably get some more Liverpool-related answers, I'm sure. But just now, looking forward, we've got a couple of midweek games that we're eagerly anticipating and, got in front of us in our calendars. Tomorrow morning, there's two games popping up and actually have very big implications on the Premier League ladder, particularly the bottom half of the table. Newcastle, like we said, deep trouble versus the slowly resurgent Canaries. What we do, Dan, is we just get some quick score predictions, and if you got anything to add, we'll hear it. But if not, just give us a quick fire answer, mate.
Newcastle 2-1.
Scott?
I'm going 1-1.
Okay, Robbie?
Yeah, I think I draw as well. Yeah, I'll go 1-1 as well. I want Norwich to win this, but I think I'll go draw.
Yeah, Scottish Iniesta, Billy Gilmore. I'm going to go with them to get a point in the end. We'll lock in 1-1 for a trifecta. Next one, guys. Leeds United, Crystal Palace. This should be an interesting game. I'll kick it off. I think that the Eagles, Palace, I think they're going to walk away with 3 points here, and I'm going to lock in a 2-1 to Vieira's men. You boys?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to argue with you on that because I have exactly the same prediction. So, Palace 2, Leeds 1.
Very good, Dan. Or Robbie?
And I'm actually disappointed with Leeds how they went last year. Crystal Palace is just one of those teams that are so unpredictable. You don't know who you're going to get. Even with the coach before then, and now with Vieira. I'm going with a draw. Just say maybe 0-0 or 1-1.
Or draw.
Yeah, look, I just think Palace might want to hit back after not getting the result last week. It's at Leeds, but like I said, they're just in terrible form. They've still got a lot of injuries as well that they haven't got all their players back. I think it might be a 2-1 as well, boys, on this.
To Palace, yep. Cool. So Southampton, Leicester City, pretty interesting match. Southampton obviously very humbled against the high-flying Reds. At home, it'll be a different game. I think they'll be able to impose themselves a little bit more on Leicester, who've been out of form despite their win last time out. But I think they'll just get the job done here, Leicester. I don't know. I'm not 100% confident, but I'm going to lock in a 2-1 to the Foxes here. Scott?
Buy me some time, boys. Dan, can you go next?
Dan, help us out.
Leicester 2 up and down for me. I think Southampton will win 1-0.
I like that. I like it. I'm gonna go for the draw again, man. I might go for a 1-1. Vardy's in hot form again, and they got Maddison back, but Saints are home. That's always hard, so I'll go for the draw.
Okay.
I'm going with Robbie. I'm with Rob 1-0.
You fence sitters, honestly. Stay up. Dan, they always call me a fence sitter, mate. That's the joke.
Well, I think they're doing it because of me. They've changed their roles.
You're too influential, mate. They're too overawed by the superstar that we've got on the IFT crew. Yeah. Watford, Chelsea. Now, every time I speak confidently about Chelsea, it goes belly up. But I'm not gonna backfire here. I'm not gonna go against my team. I never do. I'm expecting a response, but I'm expecting a different front three to help us with that response. I'm just hoping either Kante or Kovacic is back. Both of those players are superstars in their own right, and they're so important to the way we play, especially with Chilwell out indefinitely now, which is very, very bad for us. But I still think we'll do enough here. I trust our defence and question mark in our attack. Let's lock in a 2-0 to the Blues.
Again, yeah, I'm with you on that, man. 2-0. I would absolutely love Watford to take points off you.
Of course you would.
Just for the fun, but yeah, I think Chelsea will have too much. 2-0.
Look, I was about to say, if Watford come out like they did against Manchester United, then I stop myself and I say, yeah, but Manchester United were crap. So that's why Watford looked like freaking amazing. I'm going with Chelsea. I just don't like the fact that they concede because I got Mendy in my fantasy team, so I lose some points.
Hey.
But I'm going for Chelsea. I'm going for 3-1.
We'll take that. Robbie?
Yeah, look, I think 3-0 in this one. I think it'll be 2-0, and then I can see Lukaku coming off the bench, and I think he needs a goal just for a bit of, just to feel like he's got some presence again. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-0 Chelsea.
I'll take that, mate. I'm touching wood, by the way, because I'm hoping you don't try to put the Molineux on me or anything like that, buddy. So Wolves versus Burnley. This is interesting. Wolves have been a team that I've been quite impressed with.
West Ham.
Forget West Ham. We'll come back to them. I've already started on Wolves now, so let us flow, boys. Wolves versus Burnley at the Molineux. I think even though Burnley are a defensively stubborn team, I don't think they'll have enough to get past Wolves at the Molineux, so I think I'm going to lock in a 1-0 to the Wolves. How about you, boys?
Yeah, look, this has got 1-0 written all over it. Sorry, boys, if we get cut now. I just don't know which way. I don't know if Burnley's going to have an upset 1-0 or like I said, Wolves never score more than like 2 goals, man. So,
yeah, Wolves 1-0, man.
Well, yeah, all right, we'll go all round Wolves 1-0.
Me too.
All right.
Wow, a quaddie.
All right, no worries.
Yeah.
All right, we didn't forget West Ham. Yeah, I know. James Tarkowski, 95th minute header or something.
Yeah, next minute's 3 or something like that.
Oh, I'd love that. Remember the other week, they had 2 3-all draws in a row. That was football. That's a football thing. But West Ham versus Brighton, that's actually going to be one of the games of the round. I know not the game of the round, but one of them. West Ham, they're going to want to bounce back against that result that they copped against City. But I don't know. It's going to be a tough game. It's definitely not a one-sided result. But I think they will do just enough against Brighton because they're in a real fix. They've got to win eventually. I know that. They're not a bad team. Potter's got a good style. I just don't think that they're going to return their fortunes around against West Ham, especially at West Ham. And because of that, I'm going to lock West Ham 2-1.
Well, yeah, for me, I think West Ham will take them in this. Brighton haven't been able to find that early season form, so I'm going with 2-0 to the Hammers.
I'm the same with you, man. West Ham 2-0. Antonio to score because he's my striker.
Mate, he's in
Time to sub him in.
He's in terrible form, man. I want to sell him.
Took him out last week. He's none in 7. That's why. So he's no returns. I took him out last week for the same reason.
Hat trick this week.
Yeah,
that's why I'm keeping him. I'm kicking myself if I didn't. He's probably trying to figure out his bloody goal celebration.
Yeah, terrible celebration. Look, I'll go 1-0 West Ham. At home, they're strong, but I don't think it's going to be Antonio on the score sheet.
Yeah, no, fair call. What about the new manager bounce has taken full effect over at the Villains? Gerrard's come in, got his first win against Palace. It's a shame it wasn't as a player, but now at least he's got it as a manager, and he's 2 out of 2, looking pretty good. Fair to say that he's up against a very, very star-studded squad in Manchester City who, like Liverpool, are doing right things at the right time. I would really love to see City drop a couple points here in this congested fixture period, but I just don't think, despite the momentum Villa have got, they'll do enough to get anything out of this. So I'm going to have to go against them and lock in a 2-0 to City in the end. I'm going for. What about you, boys?
For me, I think City will have too much for Villa. They're humming at the moment. They're looking so good. I think they take it 3-1.
Yeah, I agree. 3-1 for me as well.
Same, man. Same. I was just about to say 3-1.
Yeah.
Boys, we're in sync tonight. This is good.
That's
Cancelo, I love Joe Cancelo, man. He's just for a fullback, man. He's just killing it at the
Beast.
moment, man.
Has that ball landed? Has that ball? Oh, no, I was thinking of Rodri, that rocket he scored the other week.
Oh, yeah, that was Rodri. No, look, he's up and down. His deliveries are amazing, man. I feel like he gets an assist every week, man. He's definitely one of the most. Him and Reece James, man, one of the best fullbacks informed fullbacks in the league at the moment.
Yeah,
definitely. It's almost as good as the defender we've got in our chat here tonight. Almost as good as him. He was a legend. Excellent, exactly. But a match that I know is close to your heart, Dan.
Daniel's got to go first here.
He's got to go first. Honorary special guest. It's your team.
Do we even have to talk about it?
We just want to know by how much, Dan. It's not about the results, just by how much.
Everton
3, 4.
I think 2-0. Let's stay at humble. Go for 3-0, man. 3-0.
I'll say you're 3 and I'll raise you. I think it's going to be 4 or 5. I really think this is going to be a deathbed. I really think you could see the end of Benitez after this game. There's so many injuries and the way they're playing. Brentford beat them the other day. They looked woeful. Liverpool's high flying. It's a derby. They're going to want to just put the axe in for this one. I'm going to go 4.
Scott?
I hate to say it. I might give Everton a goal just so I don't go the same prediction as Rob. I'm going to go 4-1 Liverpool. Hopefully my captain Salah comes in good.
Yeah, I'm going to put the armband on him as well this week.
Yeah, I think keep it simple, 3-0 to the Reds, and Everton continue to struggle for a while. Now, we'll touch on the other fixtures come on the Thursday show because that will be the forward-looking one for the weekend's game, so we won't go into all of the matches, just the midweek ones. Now, the topic that's obviously very trending as of this morning, Ballon d'Or, number 7. Lionel Messi he set more records. Lewandowski robbed. Dan, you want to kick it off, mate? What do you think about the results from this morning's Ballon d'Or?
Frustrated the hell out of me when I saw it, man.
100%.
Frustrated the hell out of me. Like,
the balance snore, mate. The balance snore.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
I think that's just a flop right there. Like, that just shows the voting system is wrong. Like, how can Lewandowski, when they just compare the two statistics of the year, he scored 20 goals more than him and Messi had a couple more assists. You cannot not give it to Lewandowski. Like, I'll be really pissed if that was me. Like, it was. I almost threw my phone outside. That's just how bad it pissed me off. And I'm not really aggressive when it comes to that stuff. I looked at it. I mean, yeah, no, like that was crap. I don't know why it frustrated me that much, but it just really, really did. Like, you just got robbed, man.
What honestly really burnt me was that they knew they'd stuffed it up so badly that they go and create some brand new award just so they can give them a consolation prize.
You got a serving dish. What do you want, mate?
It
what
looked
else
like something out of a woodwork from your pen, mate. It was terrible.
Boys, I'm not going to stand up and admit that I've won many trophies or accolades for my sporting ability.
Esports king, mate.
Outside of FIFA or esports, but man, to me, I think if I was Lewandowski, knowing I should have got it last year, but they decided that they weren't going to give one, knowing that I should have got it this year, but they've given it to someone for a popularity contest and to write a fairy tale, and then they give me a consolation made-up wood monstrosity, looks like something we made at Fairfield Pats in Year 8. Like,
I don't know which one's worse, that or you know how they made him the Lego Ballon d'Or and someone gave him that as well. I don't know which one was worse.
I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. So you know my thoughts on Messi. He's one of the greatest players of all time. However, to me, not deserving of Ballon d'Or. Deserving of a top 3 finish, deserving of a top 5 finish, but not deserving of holding that trophy. I love the quote from Cruyff, Ballon d'Or, a bunch of journalists and people voting for their friends. That's exactly...
And he equally said the same thing as well about Messi winning 5, 6 or 7 of them as well. So he foreshadowed that too. So interesting. I just think the whole thing's a bit of a Mickey Mouse award anyway, to be honest. Like, because there's I suppose for me, there's two things. It's a team sport. You win or you lose as a team. Yes, there's more influential players, and it's exciting to know which ones stand out. But even the best players can't always influence the result. So you're celebrating them over everybody else, a bit disrespectful to every other person that contributes to their team success. But also, the criteria is so vague and it's so subjective, which makes it good for a debate like we're having. But I don't know, like, because you look at the stats, like you said, Dan, Lewandowski's goal scoring stats were freakish this year. And, you know, even Messi, he missed out a couple of years ago when his stats were better, but he won it in years when it wasn't better. So you just don't know how people are voting and why they're voting. Is it just because of PR? Is it because of aesthetics? What is it? Why? How are they voting on these things?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand it. I just don't get it.
I'm the same. I don't understand what criteria you need to meet. And look, I honestly...
Change your surname to Messi.
It's got nothing to do with the whole Ronaldo Messi. Because Ronaldo didn't deserve it either. So it's not nothing to do because I'm a Ronaldo fanboy. It's just, when they announced that they had the big announcement during the ceremony, there's going to be 2 big awards today. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like they obviously just shut it off last year. I thought there was going to be presentation of 2 Ballon d'Ors. I thought it would have been Lewandowski.
Both to Messi, just to stitch up everyone.
I thought at least he's going to get the one that he got robbed of last year, definitely, because he won literally 6 trophies, the Champions League and everything else, plus all the accolades he had with goal scoring. I thought, okay, fair enough. And then look, if Messi gets it from then, because he won the Copa America, which you know my thoughts about anyway, I just thought it was crazy. So look, for me, exactly what you said, RJ. I don't know how. If they're going to go, like, obviously Lewandowski got the striker of the year, whatever, and Donnarumma got the goalkeeper of the year. But like, I didn't say a midfielder of the year. Like, you might as well just do a trophy for each position. That's what I said before. Why is he getting the Ballon d'Or just for him? Like you said, it's a team effort. So it's supposed to be the best player in the world for the year. For me, I know he had a great year and he's one of the best. He didn't win. And like I said, I'm not having a dig as well, RJ. I'm being honest. Congratulations to Chelsea getting the club of the year. But I would like to know.
Even that's funny.
How do you work that out? Because for me, the first thing I want to say is
they weren't even the club of the year in England.
How do you get club of the year when you come 4th in England? I know you won the Champions League, but I'm being serious.
And the women too.
I know, but I'd just love to know that. Why? How can you say, you've been the best club when you didn't even win the league, for instance?
Yeah, best looking players and just whatever, mate. I can't justify. I don't know. Look, the whole thing's a G up. Honestly, let's just face it. Just stick to the action on the field. That's what I say. They all dress up in nice black suits.
Club of the year, though, I think comes down to both the men's and women's game, and
that's what it was.
Players you've got in there, and the young player as well. So I think it comes through. I can understand it, but I just think it's a bit farcical. I mean. Also, I know Ben's put this in the live chat, but massive shout out to Sam Kerr. Podium finish, repping Australian football really well at the moment. I know the ladies are currently down 1-0
to the US.
To the US, but, you know, for her, onwards and upwards. So,
well, she plays for the best club in the world, mate, officially. Just saying, not me, officially speaking. That's not me. But look, I was happy. Look, I'm not happy. I'm happy because I'm a Messi fan, but I don't like the way in which it just causes a massive divide, because every year when it's the player you don't want it to win it, they will get hammered and they will get aggressively pushed. I still don't understand why the last year's award didn't go ahead, because everybody knew who was the best and deserved to win. But it just goes to show you that the whole system needs a reform, because I saw John Terry before he posted up a tweet back in 2005, and you look at that top 10 list, and that's a list that deserved to be sort of really celebrated. They were some players back then, and you reflect back on the year that was back then with Ronaldinho, Gerrard, Lampard. Those players were serious, and they were at the prime of their game. And you can see even the ordering, you probably scratch your head, but you would agree with in the end, just because of just how good they were. But now it's all about vibes and how many likes you get on your social media pages, I think, to an extent.
Before we get any closing thoughts from you on Ballon d'Or, just in case you weren't sure, I think Emad's giving you some props here, because Rob, myself, and RJ...
We all looked at him and we all smiled, just quietly.
It's because I have a shave, mate.
We are the regular panel, so RJ, myself, and Rob are always here. But
I was thinking that you've got no mo. RJ shaved the
Nah,
beard. I don't
man,
know.
no.
I don't know about me. I've just got my nice and and obviously we've got Daniel here, so he's
Emad showing Daniel some love. You can see there's plenty of love here. Any closing thoughts on Ballon d'Or, Daniel, though, as the best looking member of the panel?
I think it's lost all credibility.
Yeah, I agree.
The last couple of years, that's just pretty much when you're Ballon d'Or, you're Ballon d'Or. There was even that controversy when Luka Modric won it, but it made sense because Ronaldo and Messi hadn't done much that year, no one really else did, and he got Croatia into the final, so that made sense, and he won it with Real Madrid. But now, I think this one here just kind of like shot the nail on the foot, where it's like I think everyone's like, it wasn't what it was, man. Wasn't what it was, and everything leading up to it, all Ballon d'Or winners were like, Nedved won it, Ronaldinho won it, etc. You had Ronaldo, Messi. Okay, but this year was just a no-brainer, and if a no-brainer doesn't get it, mate, they're struggling.
Yeah,
it's true.
I think we're getting too many blokes commenting on our looks. I'm a bit worried, to be honest, because I don't know.
Look, hey, but before I know we're going to have a bit of a chatter about Daniel's career, but just a little bit of breaking news from Tom, who runs the United Pubcast. Ragnick's not going to be in charge for United against Arsenal because of visa, COVID, etc. So Carrick is at the wheel again, but I know we'll unpack that more.
I'm sure Ralph will be on the phone to Fletcher just like he was last game.
Benching Ronnie again.
Yeah, no, it's all happening. So, Dan, we brought you in here. We love hearing about your thoughts on Liverpool and the Premier League and Ballon d'Or, but we just want to give our audience a little bit of a reflection on what a great career you had, mate, because I was, beforehand going through some of your highlights and reading some great interviews you've given in recent times. And as locals, we're all Sydney boys here. We're all roughly the same age, 88, 89 and whatnot. But a boy from Blacktown, as the article wrote when I was reading from Jake Rosengarten, boy from Blacktown, and Mark Coney Stallions boy, and we're from Bosley Park, so some of us here, the Stallions. He went all the way. You've played overseas. You've done it in Europe. You've represented your nationality in over 20-odd games, and you've played some against the best players in the world, like with Modric. You played against my club in the Champions League. You, a local Sydney boy, played in the Champions League. Just some quick reflections on some of the big ticket highlights, mate, and just give the crowd something to jaw drop for.
Man, it's coming on a daily. It's weird. I never like to talk. I don't even like talking about it now. It's just I always said it. When you're talking about your past, you're not in the present. But sure. I guess now then, I decided to retire months and months ago. I only announced it recently, just for the academy I'm involved in. But I never really reflected back on it, and I never really wanted to, but it was funny, like now with the academy and stuff, we're talking, and they were talking about, like, this is just something that happened last night and just kind of, like, took me back. They're talking about there was this Instagram, YouTube thing about De Bruyne kicking the ball, like the way he kicked it and that. And I went, I actually played against him. And the kids are looking at me. They go, how can you not bring that up? I go, oh, no, it just clicked to me now. I go, when he was at Chelsea, I remember I marked him. And he wasn't that good. And then I said back, I go, did I really play against De Bruyne? And I just remember, I go, yeah, I do. And it just, things are starting to come up of ones. And my funniest story was the Mo Salah one, which I only found out a few years ago that I actually played against him when I was in Basel. And the funny thing about it is it came out, the post or like the newsletter came out, I don't know who put it up. And I think I was at Victory, I was in Newcastle. I think I was at Newcastle. And I called my mum. I go, Mum, can you go to where my jerseys are and just see who I changed against Basel? She went up there. It was all blood wrapped, and it was Mo Salah's. I had no freaking idea.
Get out of it.
But again, you don't recap, man. You don't remember, and it's like I'm starting to remember now. If I go up there, the only one I know is because my dad, when we played Serbia, some Serbian guy came up to me and he goes, "Whose jersey did he change with?" And he goes, "Kolaros." And he goes, "I paid $2,000 for it." And my dad had told me, I was on the phone because I gave it to him, the jersey, when I came back to Australia and I went back overseas. And he goes, I got offered $2,000 for it. I go, really? People are a bit stupid and silly about it? I go, it's just a memory, man. You know what I mean? So if I do go through them, I probably will find somebody, I think even Ramsey or someone like that I played against. But it's just funny when you just look back and you're like, yeah, fair enough. And you get these kids that just idolize these players, and you're like, I always wanted to do that in my career. Just say, yeah, been there, done that. That was pretty much it. Doesn't change anything because I'm still always wanted to be a humble guy and just stick down to earth. Because I remember when I signed just before I signed my first professional contract in Croatia, I was in Dinamo Zagreb, and there was this girl that said, "Oh, I knew this player. You know, he's homegrown." I go, "Oh yeah, he's in the youth." He goes, "Oh, but he signed his contract. He doesn't even say hello to me anymore." And I remember that like it was yesterday. And I said, if I was to ever become a football player, like if I actually made a career out of this, I wouldn't want anyone saying that against me. Now, you can't change one person saying something, but the other 9 people on the table will be like, you've got the wrong person because he's not like that. Because that's really, you can't please everybody. And I always said I just didn't want to be that type of person. So I just wanted to be a normal person. So I would have my football friends, and then when you finish football, I'll go and have a family that I hang out with in Melbourne, Newcastle, overseas. Just want it to be as normal as you possibly can in that world. So that's why when I recap now and these stories come out, De Bruyne, I remember when we played Chelsea, I went straight. Remember during the game, Ashley Cole, we were having words, like just conversational. Like, do you think we were playing? I never met the bloke before, and it's Ashley Cole. You know, he was married to Cheryl Cole. That's the reason why we all remember him. Quite largely, yeah. She's a bloody hottie.
Top player.
And he was a gun play, Arsenal, Chelsea, and all that. And I remember we came after the game to change jerseys, and I go, "Sorry, man, I've got to go to the Aussie adding goals." And it kind of like I snubbed him, and I felt bad because it was Ashley Cole, but I went straight for Schwartz's jersey after the game, which everyone was like, "Why would you go for a goalkeeper?" I go, "Mate, he's Aussie." You know what I mean? Like, it mean more. I didn't know any Aussie players, to be honest. I never really watched the Socceroos or anything. I go, it'll mean more for people out back home if I change jerseys with Schwarzer than anyone else. Mind you, at the game, there was Fernando Torres, Samuel Eto'o, Lampard, Terry,
Ramirez,
Ivanovic. I'm just trying to remember a few. Schürrle.
Oscar, I think, was playing, if I'm not mistaken.
Ramirez. Oscar was there. Oldroyd changed with Mourinho, to tell you the truth. He was the coach then. So, you know, I mean, you just look back, and I remember faintly going straight for him because I spoke to him before the game. Like, "Hey, you're a Blacktown boy as well." And he turned, he's like, I'm thinking I'm a gypsy from Romania or something like that. And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Mate, I'm an Aussie boy." This was in the tunnel going onto Stamford Bridge. So you just remember these little things. But honestly, man, it's like this much of a whole career, and it's starting to come out when I'm doing more of these things. But it's fun, man. It's interesting because I just still go and train kids and just say, you can do it because I bloody did it. It's doable if you put your mind to it, man. And that's the real philosophy, and sticking to the basics, which kids nowadays look at Instagram and think it's all glamorous and whatnot.
Well, so what you mentioned an academy at the moment. Maybe just tell us a little bit more about. I mean, obviously the retirement is still somewhat fresh. Tell us a little bit about what kind of the present and the future hold for you. Like, what is some of your aspirations?
We're in Melbourne when obviously we won it with Melbourne City, and we're in a lockdown. So I saw in myself, if I was guaranteed to win the season this year again, it wouldn't be my intention. Not my intention. It wouldn't have gotten me excited. If that makes sense, because I've been there, done that. But it was also that when we went to Melbourne City, even though I wasn't there for that long, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And I still don't. I don't consider myself like they were second going into first when I got there with the 2 games in hand. I was there to help them out a little bit, but I was willing to just stop playing football when my son was born and I was here at the Wanderers. So my mind was made up, and I'm that type of person. When I say I'm done, I'm done. There's no coming back, because you don't want to. Well, I could have turned left. No, I'm going straight. That's it. I'm not looking left nor right. That was it. So during this whole lockdown stage, I was speaking to Channel 10. We spoke to Channel, a producer in Channel 10, and then coincidentally my mate, who I was a technical director at in Interlions, he goes, "Look, I'm taking the academy and I want you in there with me." So it's already established academy. It's the only sanctioned academy in New South Wales, probably in Australia, that is sanctioned all the way up to the FFA. So that just means more paperwork for us. But it ticks all the boxes to get there. All the private academies are not sanctioned. So it's an established academy. It's called CBFI Academy. We go out of Majors Bay Reserve in Concord. And, man, it's fun, man. It's different. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm teaching you a specific formation because every coach is different. Like mine is, I want to teach, like I was saying, I was doing some 1v1s just now and just teaching kids basics. I was doing an 18-year-old. And he goes, I thought I was fit. I go, yeah, do these little short, sharp drills. And he just went, I'm obviously not that fit. And he was a very fit kid. I go, yeah, but have you ever done this before? And he goes, no. I go, this is the basics. And it frustrates me that the basics actually gone out the window. I go, I do this. I was doing this when I was 11, 12, 13 years old, in Blacktown, in Marconi. Right, this is the basic crap. How can you not know it? But it's because it hasn't been taught. It's actually kind of pushed aside. It's all about winning. It's all about, I don't know what. You stick to the basics. And that's what we do out in the academy with my business partner. He's been doing academies for over 10 years. And that's what we're all about, man. It's not really selling anything else. It's pretty much just teaching kids the basics, not your Cruyff turns, not I can do 100 juggles. The first thing I'll say is I couldn't juggle till I was 20. And even then I couldn't juggle because it was irrelevant and I was already professional for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's teaching, it's getting the kids to know the basics. And although if you do it here, you can do it in your club. You're not going to learn it there. So things like that I hold passionately, and I think that is a way to fix and get players to that next level because they just think, I'm going to go straight to the Prem. It's not the way it works, man. We're far behind when it comes to that stuff. So I'm quite passionate about it. And that's what I like. I'm happy to retire and continue this road and work with Channel 10.
Yeah.
And
speaking of, you're bringing up academies and stuff. Obviously, you're at Jets, you're at Victory, you're at City, the Wanderers. Out of those clubs, especially more recently, as a player, who do you think were building like the culture of the club, the academy? Obviously, we know the Wanderers. We've seen what they've built. Obviously, City have City all the money getting pumped into City footballing group. Is there someone like as a player that you said, hey, this setup is good, the culture is good? You know, not to say what was your favorite club you played for, but which one had the best setup for an academy player to come through the ranks?
Yeah, look, I didn't really see him. I know Wanderers have all these pictures and all that, but for me, that's like lipstick. It doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean where all the main players came from. They came from the streets. I'm not saying we have that here in Australia because we do not. But I'm saying that's good to have those facilities, but I didn't know how they work. With City, it's all pretty much stemming down from Pep Guardiola's philosophy, which came to Monbao, which his Norbert took, and they won it last year. So that's been going from the top all the way down to the bottom. I'm not sure how they do it here. I know I did my coaching courses, and it was all based on Ange Postecoglou's 4-3-3 formation. And while I was doing it, Ange was playing a 3-5-2. So I was like, well, what are you teaching me to be a coach for in a 4-3-3 when it's not implemented in the whole Australian system? So that was just the way the coaching courses went. So I go, fair enough, that's what's happening right now. But going back to clubs, every club's different, man. You have to. Barcelona doesn't have the same as Real Madrid. Liverpool don't have the same as Man U. Wanderers don't have the same as Melbourne City or Jets. At the end of the day, the only way that you would differentiate is when someone comes out of there or more players do come out of those systems. Sydney FC, they have, I would say, a pretty strong academy because they have about 3-4 youth that are in that team, in the first team for the past 2 years. They haven't branched off and gone to Central Coast or Jets to have more game time. They've stayed there and they're sticking to that philosophy. So just not knowing it internally because I haven't played there, I would say, well, they must be doing something right there. Melbourne City must be doing something right there. Only due to the fact that from youth, from that generation, if they get 1 or 2, that's good. You've got Metcalf out in Melbourne City. You've got Tony Glover. So you've got certain young players that are actually in the team, not some players that came from one academy or come down to this academy. They didn't really make those players. You kind of get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Keanu Backus has come from the youth. Okay, he's been there for a couple of years now. What's the next stage? So what other players are you developing? Are you just holding on to that? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like establishing them to go play for Socceroos. And that's where you can kind of say which academy works and which doesn't.
Yeah, speaking of Socceroos, from a national team perspective, I'll again refer back to the article with Optus and Jake, and you spoke about your pathway and the route you took essentially, and the one that didn't quite open up, based on what perception might be for young aspiring football players in Australia. But you look at the current Socceroos setup and, extend that more broadly to the Matildas and the Joeys and what have you, based on what your understanding of the situation is and what you hear and see around the traps, what do you see as the trajectory for the likes of those, top tier Australian football teams in the short to medium term?
I think the young players have it easy, to be honest. I don't think they have to earn their stripes, per se, to get to where they are. When I was growing up, we had the AIS. I was never even close to the AIS or New South Wales Institute. There were different programs put in. Now I don't even know what the hell's going on. And now because of they're playing professionally, okay, because they're young, not because they're good, because they're young and they're getting a chance, which kind of bruises the league. It hurts the league because you're kind of giving a player the easy comfort of making 60K a year, 65 actually, and they're comfortable to do that. Well, that shouldn't be your end result. You should be searching for the stars. Oh, but I don't want to go to Europe for 30K. Well, that's where you're going to learn your football. I went there for zero, and I received zero for 24 till I was 24 years old. I'm not saying you have to use my journey to get there. I'm saying you guys have a great setup. There's money pumped into this league. Why aren't there more players playing in Europe? And when I mean playing, I mean not on the bench. I mean playing.
Playing, yeah.
That's what I say. You look at the Socceroos. Now, not to speak bad about them, but most of those, from what I've seen last couple of years, more players play for the actual Socceroos in their own club.
Yeah, sure.
Which is kind of sad because it's kind of like, well, why are you there for? You should be playing in your team respectfully and playing brilliantly because foreigners overseas, it's hard, man. It's hard to be a foreigner overseas. It's easy to be a foreigner in Australia because those foreigners, when they come here, they're on bloody holidays, mate. They're loving it. Over there, mate, there's no chance. So that's probably why the Australian players aren't playing as much in their teams. And it's hard. It's hard to play in a foreign team. Oh, but it's not that good. Mate, you're still playing in a foreign league. And you can go play your national team if you're good enough. But if you're not playing for your club and you're getting called up for your national team, it's kind of hurting the reputation of, like we said earlier, why are you even playing? What's getting you there? Why is Harry Maguire Man U? Because he plays for England. Okay, but is he good? No, because he's English. Same thing here. Why are you? Who are these players getting called up? Are they even playing in their teams? Are they playing good? That's another thing. And that's what I think has been prolonged for the last couple of years, and Australia have kind of gotten away with it. But now it's kind of like very evident with how the Socceroos have played the last couple of games, and they've been copping a bit of stick. And it's a shame because there's a lot of money being pumped into the Socceroos, and they get a bigger payday. Some do, playing for the Socceroos and playing for their own clubs, which is sad because it shouldn't be money based. Representing your country, because for me it was always, I played for Macedonia, yeah, but it wasn't that big. Yeah, but that put me on a pedigree to go and play Champions League. That's how you look at it. Australia, playing for Australia should get you that transfer because you're on a different pedigree. And that's what it should be. Unfortunately, players get called up and they're just, cool. Shouldn't be.
Fair point. It's interesting because obviously many of us, we grew up in the golden age of the Socceroos and we've got an expectation, different hurdles. Like you said, there's more money today, but the standards haven't been kept up to scratch. And despite an easier, quote unquote, pathway, it's for some reason they just haven't been able to continue making substantial improvement. And in fact, they've probably regressed in a lot of respects. So how they turn the tide from here on in is going to be very fascinating to watch. But just on a lighter-hearted segment, because I've realised we've kind of stolen a bit more time than I've actually bargained for, Dan. So thanks very much for overstaying what my initial commitment to you was. But you've been an absolute sport and champion. But just to end things on a lighter note, we're going to enter a couple of quick-fire questions. So the name of the game is we'll pop a question out to you, and without too much of an explanation, if not any, just give us your answers. So the first one I'll throw to you, and we'll get each of the panel to share their thoughts. My question is, what is your most iconic Premier League moment? Just iconic. Doesn't have to be your team, just most iconic Premier League moment. Dan, you're the guest of honour. You go first.
Thierry Henry's goal against Man U.
Scott's going to want to be your best friend now, mate. So.
That goal or Bergkamp's goal against Newcastle United?
The flick one?
Thierry
The
Henry,
flick,
yeah, Henry was just something different, man.
We played some beautiful football. For me, the invincible season, finishing that season unbeaten, it's never going to be repeated in the Premier League.
No. Liverpool
to
tried
me, it's that.
No.
Yeah. We won't see that many draws again in a season. You're right. Robbie,
Undefeated, mate.
There you are.
I won't go for obvious goals. For me, just a big iconic moment was our 20th title when obviously Sir Alex was retiring. For him to lift it at the end, I think all United fans always cherish that moment. He's such he is the GOAT of the Premier League managers, maybe all managers. But just that 20th title and Kim raising it, I'll never forget that, and I'll cherish it more now more than ever. Miss him.
I'll cheat you. I'll give you. Exactly. After Scott's answer, I was going to say the 6-0 win over Arsene Wenger's Thousand game in charge, but it's two moments. The Aguero moment, that's super iconic for me, but it's recency bias. It is what it is. Or the other one that's near impossible to repeat, the 5,000-1 Leicester season.
Yeah,
that story was incredible in my opinion, but all very good moments. You're up next, Robbie. What's your question, mate?
Yeah, I've got favorite non-footballing athlete.
You can say me if you want, Daniel.
Esport.
Michael Jordan, man.
Michael Jordan, yeah, nah. How good was that documentary, bro?
I think Michael Jordan in general, even before The Last Dance, man.
Yeah,
Scottie Pippen, I don't think would agree with you there, Dan.
Yeah,
I think he'll agree with me as well, don't worry.
Buy me some time, RJ.
Ooh, okay, I'll give you mine. I'm going to go with Roger Federer. Just a class act. Just the first thing that plucks out of there for me. Just a top talent.
For me, you and I are always on opposite ends of every sport. I'm going to go with Rafa Nadal. I love the guy's engine. I just love the engine on him, how he literally never stops.
He's a super athlete. Super athlete.
Yeah. Nadal.
Oh, look, I think I'll go maybe Bolt. I love Bolt. I love his charisma. I love how he knows how good he is, and I don't think we'll ever personally see that record beaten. He was just a freak of nature, man. So yeah, I'll go Bolt. And a quick shout for Michael Schumacher. I love my motorsport, and for me, no matter if Hamilton overtakes his record, he's always the GOAT for me.
I was thinking the same Bolt, to be honest, but no, Michael Jordan.
9.58, and it didn't even look like he was trying 100%. That's the saddest part.
Mate, look, I'll wrap it up with this one. If you didn't go for your team in the Premier League, so Liverpool, Chelsea, United, what other team would you cheer for?
I know who it's not.
Oh, we're thinking, boys.
Does it have to be in the Premier League still? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. As long as they've been in the Premier League at some point, not too long ago.
So not one of the 4 teams that we have here.
No, it can be one of ours, but for you, it can't be Liverpool.
Someone else go. Give me a second.
I'll go first. I'll go first, boys. I'll buy you time. There's a little bit, even when we have Kat on the show, there's always like a mutual respect between Arsenal and Liverpool, because we've both over the years liked to actually play football and won't just buy the league like some other teams. So
what an insult to Liverpool! You're dragging them down with you.
I would say Liverpool. Liverpool for me.
Oh boy!
I'll give you one answer, but it's not my answer. If I was to ever remember we were in Steaua Bucharest and we're talking, what team would you want to play for in the Prem? And one of the boys said Arsenal. And we're like, what do you mean? He goes, think about it. You're in London. You can take the piss. And you never
no pressure.
This was the last decade after Arsene Wenger. And he goes, dude, it's a no-brainer. And he was close mates with Emmanuel Adebayor. And he goes, dude, the guy was loving life. So I think that, but that's not my team. That's not my team. That was just one thing that I remember someone said you would love to play for Arsenal because you don't.
He was a good player at Adebayor. He did all right for us.
What a gun. Naturally talented, man.
Mm.
I'm trying to think now. I'm going back old school, though. I always like watching. Nah. Someone else, man. Come on, RJ, say something.
Yeah. All right. I'll throw one out there. I reckon I wouldn't mind actually playing for Aston Villa. I like them. I have a lot of respect for that club. I think they've got a lot of tradition. They've got a good supporter base, and they're well backed. So I think that hopefully they pay me well and hopefully bring in some good players, but wouldn't be just a new money club.
Yeah, look, I've always said I think if I wasn't going to pick one of the bigger teams, I would go Everton. I don't know. I've always got a little bit of a soft spot. There's been a few changes of players between us, and look, I think they hate Liverpool just as much as us. So Everton.
Such a hater. Daniel, we bought your time.
I'm looking at it.
I hate
I've got
Liverpool.
one in my head, and I'm just saying maybe I'll see another team. It's funny enough, we're saying years ago, Coventry City.
Coventry City.
Yeah.
Like before, for some reason I would see them and I was like, there was them, Sunderland, they're all kind of that similar. I'm saying old, like early 2000s. Coventry City, I would say would have been pretty sick. But Manchester United comes into my brain from time to time, depending who's there. I liked Ferguson until I hated him. Because I saw one thing about him and I didn't like. They played a game in Dubai and he kind of like snubbed off the not the trophy, they were runners-up trophy, and he put a grin on his face, and I'll say, you know what, I have no respect for him. I was a young kid then as well.
Winner's mentality.
Yeah, but you can't do that, man. It's disrespectful. That's something that small killed me, man. I would say, I've always got a soft spot for Chelsea, though. Maybe not because I played for him, but just because they just kept players. Like, you had your John Terry, you have your Lampard. Yeah, Lampard towards the end of his career ended up playing New York and City. But I think they've kept those players happy, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Drogba, all those, like, they did well for that club and they've kept them. And they always played well.
Okay, are any of you planning on going back and watching the Matildas, or do you want to know the final score?
Yeah, what was the final score?
Hit us up.
Dan, you good for the score?
You're probably going to say 4-0 or something, I think.
Kaya Simon with an 88th minute equaliser to secure a 1-1 draw.
No, it's
Great
Brown against the world number one.
Great result for the Matildas. Very good result.
Very
Big
good. I
ups
thought
to
you were
them.
going to say something worse, but I was like, considering after the thrashing a few days ago, it's actually a really good result.
Yeah, very good result. Very good.
Beautiful.
RJ.
What a blockbuster episode again. Thank you very much to our special guest. And despite the not so sensational start, which is all scripted, by the way, might not have looked that way, but it was. We have gone on leaps and bounds to conduct what was a super episode, and hopefully we can get you back in some time. But before we go, Dan, just want to give you a quick moment again just to remind people where they can find you, but also just also tell people what the current project is with Channel 10, and also again on the coaching side of things, because I know they can find it on your Instagram, but just a quick plug before we wrap it up.
Yeah, no, it's called CBFI Academy, man. It's we're finishing the next couple of weeks because of Christmas, and then we start again on the 31st of January. So it's a 10-week program we do every term, and we do a little school holiday. So said, man, I'm there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. As a head coach, my business partner, and a few other coaches that we have our own program set in, which, like I said, sticks to the basics, but it's a lot of fun and you have a lot to learn. With Channel 10, I do punditry on the couch and co-commentating, which they want me to do. So I've got one out in Wollongong tomorrow for the FFA Cup. And then I've got Saturday, which I'll find out tomorrow whether it's Saturday, but it's guaranteed Sunday co-commentating and punditry. So get about a gig or two a week. So it's a lot of fun, man. I always said if I can't swear, but if I can get paid and talk crap, I'll love it, man. So I think I prefer that than playing football, to be honest. So no, it's good, man. I'm having fun. I'm learning a certain way. I'm implementing my own way, and I just like saying it how it is, and I don't like beating around the bush. So that's
beautiful.
That's me, man.
RJ's sending you a check in the mail, by the way. He said he'd shout tonight's appearance. When
he comes down to MacArthur and he's available for a couple of, beverages of Dan's choice and a bit of feed, he may or may not get some funds coming his way from ourselves.
Do I get overtime as well? Because it was only initially for an hour.
I've got to check the contract terms and conditions. We'll talk offline about that.
You get the
it was
honor.
a lot of fun, boys. I really appreciate it, man.
You get the honour of being our longest ever live stream, I think. I think
it's a privilege.
Absolutely,
thanks,
mate. No,
Beautiful.
pleasure.
All right, guys. Just want to say thank you again to the live chat. You've braved it out, but it was all worth a great cause because Dan gave us many golden insights. Tune in on Thursday night because we are going to have Tom from United Pubcast join us for another cracking episode. Arsenal United, 2 minnow teams battling out to avoid relegation. Just kidding, of course. But until then, guys, just want to say thanks very much. And to Dan, take care, mate, and all the best with your future endeavours, legend.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.